Now, with recent superannuation changes coming into effect, how will this impact your self-managed super fund? And if you have any plans to put your property in your self-managed super fund, we'll look at that as well. Martin Jandera, SMSF Specialist Advisor and Director for Super Property Concierge, is here to talk to us about all this. He's in the studio. How are you, mate?
Good, how are you?
Very good. So, what a name. Super Property Concierge. What's the story with that?
Well, when you've got some technical aspects to bring together and a couple of different disciplines that you need to integrate, what better name than a concierge that looks after everything for you, and we don't have to go out and explain all the different aspects that we bring together to make our clients' life easy.
One-stop desk.
One-stop desk, one-stop shop.
Okay. So you specialise in self-managed super funds?
That's correct.
And property is one of your main players?
One of property, investments, everything.
Okay. But you've got the property in the concierge thing.
We certainly do.
Is there a big increase in demand for property in self-managed super funds?
Oh, look, there has been. The global financial crisis really spurred the interest in property. Yesterday's collapse, today's gain has also sort of promoted property as well. Moving away from the volatility, security, people want comfort, people want to know that 5 years out from their retirement, they're still going to have their money.
Property prices never fall.
Never.
Ask the people in Palm Beach, darling point. But of course, we often don't see it because we don't see the property price changes. It's only if you're selling is it a hassle if your property price is falling.
Exactly.
Okay. So the reason, why do you think people are more keen, apart from the GFC and the scare in the stock market, was there any sort of, I'm leading you with a leading question, did the tax office make it more attractive to own property?
Look, there has been, and it doesn't take you far to go to see what the reasons are. I mean, most brokers have been spruiking the zero tax environment in pensions, and one of the biggest marketing employees to get people into property and super has been the zero tax environment in the pension phase.
If you sell it.
If you sell.
The capital gains tax.
Capital gains tax free. Yeah. So that's been the biggest attraction, absolutely. And that's what property brokers have been really relying on.
Now, in April, the Gillard government proposed to make some changes. Explain what those changes are, or were.
Well, the changes that were proposed look to introduce capital gains tax, depending on when they'd phase it in over the next few years. It was to begin on the 1st of July.
Yeah, wasn't there basically like a 10-year period for those who are already in?
That's right.
So if you sold within 10 years, you're okay.
Pretty much.
Capital gains tax free.
That's right.
But those who did it after that date were going to be caught by...
We'd be caught up to the introduction date. Yeah. You had the opportunity in the phase-in period where you could pick and choose whether it would apply or not.
But basically,
you were caught out.
If you hadn't done it before then.
That's right.
And so the real tax on a property now would be 10%. It's not really 15% because you get a discount.
You get a discount, yes, 1/3.
Yeah. So most super funds will pay a 15% tax on something like that. That's 10%. So it's not all that massive, but still.
No, comparatively it's quite good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Choice of paying tax, not paying tax. Most people would say, don't pay tax.
That's right.
All right. So, was that legislation passed with all the shenanigans that have been going in Canberra?
We're still waiting for the details to come through. We're still waiting.
So those guys are gone now.
That's right.
And effectively, they can't pass it. So it's going to be, if Abbott wins the next election, the question is, will he sit on that legislation and go with it?
Well, it may be worthwhile not rescinding it. If the current government introduces it, then he doesn't look like he's introduced something that may be seen as a disincentive and can rely on the revenue streams.
Yeah. So we don't know if the attractiveness of putting a self-managed super fund, one of the attractive reasons, is going to disappear at this stage.
That's right.
Okay, good. Another thing was the tax office also allows us now to renovate a property. Once upon a time, they were very restrictive, weren't they?
They were very restrictive. It still comes with its own restrictions. Yeah. You can maintain, you can repair. Renovations need to be done with your cash funds, but they do put certain specific...
So you can't borrow for it?
You can't borrow for it.
But you could turn a cottage into a two-storey place?
You could potentially with your own funds, but there are other superannuation rules and regulations you need to be aware of. Yeah. It's not as simple as just rushing into that sort of renovation. No. So... There's
got to be a reason why people want to talk to you, isn't there?
That's right. That's true.
And of course, one of the big issues is that you can't change the nature of the property. So if you try to turn it into a duplex or something like that and rent top and bottom...
Exactly.
No, you can't do it.
You can't change the asset. So if it becomes a different asset, then it's not allowed. If it stays the same asset. And the ATO have got some great guidelines on that, and some of the things you can do are quite amazing. Yeah.
Do you think that the tax office will start inspecting those funds that have property in them?
Well, they made them a target last year, and they will certainly continue to make them a target of their audits at the end of every year, and I'm sure that we'll see the results of those audits going forward, and it'll be very interesting reading to see what sort of compliance issues will come up.
Are you happy with the loans that are out there at the moment, or do you think they're still a bit complex and a bit messy?
Look, I don't think it's the loans that are that complex. It's the legislation that's complex. As long as we make... The loans themselves are a little bit easier in that there's no offsets, there's no redraws. So a lot of the complexity behind a normal loan has been withdrawn because of superannuation.
Yeah.
But it's really the legislation that trips people up, and some of the detail in the loan products as it applies to superannuation. It's a real issue.
Does every property that you buy have to be positively geared, or can it be negatively geared? That's what I'm sure my viewers are wondering.
Oh, absolutely. Look, there is a move to positively geared property externally, but in superannuation, a negatively geared property can make sense.
Yeah. So it's possible, strategy. And you have tax deductions.
That's correct.
For a super fund. Yep, that's for sure. Now, in terms of the mistakes that people are making, what is some of the big mistakes that you would warn people about when they're doing self-managed super fund property? One
of the biggest ones is people going out before they have all the structures set up.
Bidding at auction. Signing with their chequebook.
Signing the chequebook. No superannuation fund set up.
It's their personal chequebook.
Exactly.
Bad mistake.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Documentation is also problematic at times. Yeah. There are a lot of issues that we're seeing every day, and unfortunately sometimes we can help them, other times we can't. Yeah. And it's a very, very expensive mistake.
Yeah. Also, I'm coming across people in my business who are asking me to do it, and they're basically putting too much property in a self-managed super fund, and they haven't got enough cash to actually do the sort of things like withdraw a pension and things like that. Is that another issue you're saying?
That can be a very big issue. Yeah. That starts to impinge on personal financial requirements. It then is an issue in Section 52 with terms of liquidity. So there's a lot of issues for the fund if it doesn't have sufficient cash to meet its ongoing requirements.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other issues that you would bring up that you're always alert about when you're talking to people about self-managed super funds?
When documentation is signed is another big one, to make sure that stamping isn't done twice. That's quite a big issue for us.
Why?
Well, if you get your order and process wrong in the different jurisdictions, you could end up with a second round of stamp duty. So something State Office Revenues would love to sort of come around and knock on your door a second time. Yeah. So getting those things wrong, and it's different for every jurisdiction. So someone buying a property in New South Wales in Queensland needs to adhere to the Queensland jurisdiction rules.
Well, we're out of time, mate, but basically the bottom line is, if you want to do it DIY, you're going to have to do a lot of homework.
Absolutely.
All right, mate, thanks for joining us.
Not a problem, thank you.